So it just came out the other day in the Ripple quarterly report that the SEC has just suffered a major setback in their case against Ripple. In this video, I'm going to tell you what that setback is, and also Ripple itself seems to be getting into the prediction game as they talk about when they think a summary judgment could come down from Judge Torres in this case. Also, the US dollar could officially be dead. I'm going to tell you what is going on globally, as well as some of the staggering numbers that I saw in Ripple's quarterly report that has one analyst calling it extremely bullish. Hey everyone, my name is Randy. Welcome back to the Late Night Grind, and right now on this channel we are covering the Ripple versus the SEC case, as well as other cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, join the Late Night Grind community, and if you would, I'd appreciate it if you smash the thumbs up button and watch this video all the way to the end. Those are the two best things you can do to help a YouTube channel, so if you do that, I greatly appreciate it. Alright guys, let's jump into it. So first, we're going to be starting off with some comments that were recently made by the Russian foreign minister about the US dollar and its dominance in the currency game. Now, of course, this is coming from Russia, so you need to take that with a grain of salt. However, what he comments and what his speech was to a UN Security Council, well, there is a lot of truth in what he's actually saying. So here we go. He's talking about the US dollar finally losing its dominance globally. Now, a lot of people have been speculating about this for a long time, ever since China and Russia have been essentially becoming besties in their common interest to see the fall of the United States. Well, he's not wrong in the economic standpoint of it, in that recently, as early as last week, some of the numbers that have been coming out about these two countries, well, he made sure to point these out. Now, the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, made sure to point out some of these statistics in his speech to the UN Security Council, and some of them, of course, are concerning if you want to support the US dollar and its dominance. And that is, within the last week, both China and Russia have now replaced the US dollar with the Chinese yuan as the most transacted currency in terms of its cross-border currencies with China and Russia. Now, they've been telling everybody for some time now that they're going to start doing this, and it looks like they finally have. And according to this speech, he is saying that there are many other countries on board with this. If you want to keep track of that, you're going to have to research BRICS, as well as the other nations that are supposedly going to be joining BRICS, as well as the other nations that supposedly want to join Project Sandman, in which these other countries want to sell US bonds en masse in order to crash the United States currency, or at least make the US dollar not the dominant currency globally. Now, one of the main points that I wanted to point out from this speech was that it wasn't just the fact that they were saying that the United States dollar, the dominance is going to flip. It is going to flip, and it's coming like a freight train, I believe were his words, and essentially there's no stopping it. But it wasn't going to be flipped by by anything Russian. It wasn't going to be flipped by a made-up currency as of yet. It wasn't going to be flipped by the Chinese yuan. It was going to be flipped by a digital currency. Now, that caught my eye in reading more and more of what he was telling the UN Security Council, is that more and more countries are moving away from using the US dollar as settlement. Now, as someone who is involved in cryptocurrencies, the word settlement, I typically think of, well, obviously cryptocurrencies, digital currencies settle much faster than fiat currencies. That's one of their major advantages. And in fact, the fact that he said that many other countries are looking to move to something that settles much faster than a fiat currency, and then it's not going to be the US dollar, it's going to be something digital, caught my attention. Especially since XRP, as well as several other cryptocurrencies, are very well at settling extremely fast and could be used for things like cross-border payments like China and Russia are currently doing, and doing it for much cheaper and much faster. So keep an eye on BRICS, keep an eye on the US Federal Reserve, and keep an eye on any more rate hikes, as it looks like now, according to bettors, there's about a 90% chance that another rate hike will be coming from the Federal Reserve soon. And before I get into the Ripple versus SEC case, I wanted to talk about some of these numbers that came out in Ripple's quarterly report that I mentioned in my last video. The same report in which the SEC's setbacks were also outlined. So here we go. I wanted to talk about these numbers first because they were actually very eye-opening. Now, this was a quarterly report, so it gives its numbers from quarter number 1 in 2023 over quarter number 4 of 2022. And I'll start with the exchanges because some of these are crazy. In decentralized exchanges, DEXs, the on-chain activity has surged over 34% specifically for XRP. And get this, in centralized exchanges, activity has gone up 46% for XRP. Now, that doesn't even include a Coinbase listing, which is, of course, a centralized exchange. Now, if this trend continues for the rest of 2023, I'd have to say, well, there's a lot more people starting to place bets that Ripple's going to win this and XRP is going to get its regulatory clarity in the United States, and they're simply placing their bets right now. But I've been saying that for a year and a half. Obviously, it doesn't affect the price. In fact, all of Ripple's announcements that they make don't affect the price. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit when I talk about what the SEC was just handed to them as a loss. And finally, the other thing I wanted to point out from this report was Ripple was talking about all of the different regulatory frameworks and regulatory clarity that many other countries globally are starting to give cryptocurrencies. Now, this has been something big in the US, mainly wrapping around this Ripple versus the SEC in terms of regulatory uncertainty and no rules of the road. Well, there's other countries that are putting things into place that are going to make things like cryptocurrencies as well as other digital assets have global and have mass adoption much quicker than it could in the United States, because there are actual rules of the road that fintech companies can now follow and easily stay within. And when talking about this, they mention things like the EU, they mention things like the United Arab Emirates, as well as several other countries. And when you cross-reference that with the things that Ripple has been building in the past couple of years, you've seen that they are now doing cross-border payments and have remittance services in many of those countries. And once those countries have the regulatory framework, you can almost assume that XRP and its usage will be spiking in those particular countries, specifically talking about cross-border payments. Now, if they continue to do that, it is going to continue to put pressure on the United States, Congress that is, to put some regulatory measures in place, like what I talked about in my last video. Okay, now let's talk about what the SEC was just handed as essentially a setback, or what many are reporting to be a setback, because that was what was quoted in the Ripple report in terms of what the SEC can't include in their case against Ripple. And it's a big one. In fact, it actually happened about a month ago, but it was pointed out in Ripple's report, and a lot of people think that that's probably for good reason. So here we go. The courts have not allowed certain testimonies by both Ripple and the SEC, have not allowed certain experts and their expert testimony to be included in this court case. The ones that the SECs are not allowed to have in this court case anymore are the expert witnesses on the reasonable expectations of an XRP purchaser, which of course that's more John Deaton's field, as well as the witness who is providing his own testimony, his own opinions on the price movements of XRP as it related to Ripple and its announcements and things like that. And this is big for Ripple. There's a reason Ripple said that this was a big setback for the SEC, because if you were trying to claim that Ripple was selling these as unregistered securities knowingly, avoiding the laws, well, you kind of wanted to see those two expert witness information in place, because now you have an expert witness who's not going to be able to talk about the mindset of people who buy XRP, nor are you going to be able to hear about the expert who says that XRP's price was moving because Ripple was making announcements about its company. Therefore, it looks like it would be a security contract for somebody buying XRP. And like I said in the beginning of this video, Ripple is, of course, getting into the prediction business, telling us when they can expect a summary judgment to come down from the judge. Although you're probably not going to like it because it's not very detailed. It is, of course, a general speculation, just like everybody else covering this court case. Ripple says at some point in 2023, they expect a summary judgment decision. So that gives the rest of the world all of 2023 to potentially stock up on their XRP as they await its regulatory clarity and potential boom usage globally as a very fast and cheap settlement option. That's it for today, guys. I want to thank you for watching the Late Night Grind. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Links in the description down below. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.